Well, welcome back to We Die Like Men. I'm Mike, and today's video is going to be a little bit different. I'm kind of doing a follow-up video to my strange things I've seen in the Maine woods. My wife and I this past Saturday, what was that? June 7th, June 6th, excuse me, decided to take a ride back up to where I grew up, and I filmed one location that I could get to. If you haven't seen that video, I would recommend and ask you to go back and watch that. It would make more sense. However, this video can stand on its own, and you get to see a lot of where I grew up in a very remote area in western Maine. Now, when I say very remote, there's always those people that are like, that's not remote, and they point to places in the world or within this country and Canada that are much more remote. And you're right, they are a lot more remote. But for most people, when you tell them that your nearest hospital or Walmart or traffic light is 50 miles away, they consider that pretty remote. So it's hard to imagine just how far out you are from things, and we're still kind of on the edge of the most remote parts. You'll see what I mean in the video. Um, the video starts out with us coming into a small town of Rumford in Mexico. It's Rumford, Maine, and we kind of come into Mexico, Maine. We don't actually go into Rumford. There's a paper mill there. It's an old town. Some of these old mill towns are not the prettiest towns. They're filled with a lot of good, hardworking, honest people. Like any town, you're going to have some that aren't. But for the most part, the people down there are good, honest, hardworking people. I guess people up there from where I am. I'm back home in southern Maine now. But it's not the prettiest looking place. But it's a necessary thing, too. You want paper, you need paper for things. It's got to be made somewhere, right? So these kind of places are like that. We then travel all the way up from there, up into the town of Aquasic, Maine, which is kind of where I grew up. And you get to see some of that area. We spend some time on the back roads, and I take you to the location of the campsite and the river where we had an encounter, my father-in-law and I, who's now passed away, but had an encounter that we couldn't describe. We've, for lack of better terms, said it might have been a Sasquatch. We don't know. I am not a firm believer that Bigfoot or Sasquatch or things like that exist anymore. I think there's a high likelihood that at some point in our past they did. I don't know if they still do. But I don't have much answers. And I explained it in the original video as best I could. But then I got thinking, if I could show people and let people see what I'm talking about, see the area, you might get a little better understanding why I said I don't think a person could have done what they did or what was done. Also, over the years, this incident took place somewheres 2012 to 2014, 2012, 2013, that era. Um, I think, when I tell people about it, I mentioned it in the video that you're about to see, that people say, well, if they existed, they'd have to be in very remote areas. And there's some people say there's nothing in Maine that remote or that vast a wilderness. I hope this video puts some of that into perspective for you. And I'm leaving it up to the viewer. I'm not here to tell you what to believe or what to think. I welcome comments on it. You can say, God, you're an idiot. There's no way. Somebody was screwing with you. Maybe they were. Watch it. Let me know what you think. Even if you haven't seen the video, just get a chance to see some amazing country. Really, really small little town that I grew up in and still consider home to me. So I hope you enjoy it. It's cut up into segments. I would record a little bit and then stop, and then record a little bit later and stop. I did the best I could to get it kind of to flow well, but it isn't perfect. I'm not the world's leading editor. If I was, I probably wouldn't be sitting here doing this. I'd be editing other people's stuff and making a lot of money doing it, probably. So, with that being said, I will cut back in towards the end of the video, and I may cut in some on during the video, may cut back to the studio and add some more stuff to it. Okay? So I hope you enjoy, and let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Coming into the last bit of civilization for quite a ways. This is the mill town of Rumford in Mexico, Maine. It's not the prettiest little town, but you got to go through it to get up where we're going.
Yeah.
So the wife's running the camera because I'm driving. And Maine has very strict laws about having a phone in your hand while you're driving. This is an old town. It's been around for, I don't know, 150 years, 175 years. As it is now. It's been civilization here longer than that, but it's a paper mill over to the left. Just going to show you a little bit through here because this is kind of small town Maine.
Yeah.
If you pan over that way, you can see we're right in the foothills of the mountains here. We're about 700 feet, I think, above sea level here, so may not be quite that much.
Some of the mountains off in the distance.
All right, and now we turn on to Route 17, which is our last road we'll take to get up there. Well, to get up to where we're headed.
Right.
And then some other ones from there, but that's about it. I'll see you guys when we hit some other areas. Bye. So right now we're about 20 miles out of town from where we last saw it. Maybe 25 miles out. And you see just how much less people there are. This is a little cluster of houses here. We are right up into getting into the closer to the mountains. And it is rainy today, unfortunately. I don't know how great some of the views are going to be, but this is much more what a lot of Maine is like, is this.
Yeah.
not a lot of sprawl, not a lot of bigger cities and towns. You get along the coast and there's a lot more, but up here in the western mountains, this log place back there. And this guy, she didn't get it in the footage. You saw it a little bit. This guy over here has always had Corvettes, and this is not Corvette country, but he's always had a ton of Corvettes, from like newer ones to like old, early 60s on up. So, all right, I'll catch up with you in our next stop. So I kind of wanted to give you guys a shot of what the roads are like coming up through. Actually, this one's in pretty good shape, regardless of the bouncing around. This is actually really good for up here. So when we left Rumford in Mexico area, and I said we were about 700 or 800 feet above sea level, it stays that way for quite a while. We're going to hit about 3,000 feet in elevation, and we're going to go from about 900 feet to 3,000 feet in about 15-mile range. Now imagine these roads dead of winter, covered in ice and snow, and logging trucks weighing 100,000 pounds coming down through. Here's a little pond that just is here. There's one little camp on it. But if you noticed, there's no power poles. We haven't had electricity. We've been away from electricity for the last 10 miles or better, 10 or 15 miles, and we're about 35 miles out of Rumford. So I'm going to slow down a little bit here. You can't see well around corners. You can't see much of anything. This is just what it's like.
Sorry for the bumps.
Driving up through here. And as you can see, this is all woods. There is nothing in either direction off the side of these roads for many, many miles. In a little bit, we're going to come to an area that I really am looking forward to showing you. I wish it was bright and sunny for a better view, but the fog may not make it too bad. Like I said, this is a follow-up video to my strange encounters in the Maine woods. I'm trying to give people an idea of just how remote some of it is and how thick and dense the woods are that you can't see anything in there. Even on my video talking about hunting in Maine, you can't see. Okay, Amy, you can swing this way some. You can see some of it. There is nothing over there for a very long ways, but there's a better view coming up around the corner and just a little bit. An area that has been labeled as one of the top 30 most scenic views in the United States. We're going to come up to a better spot here. But you are looking out through the mountains, basically into, it's Canada. Just a little bit. We're going to come around a corner. We're going to about, well, in a straight line, about a quarter of a mile, driving about a mile.
Right.
Because there's nothing straight about these roads. Part of that is because off to my left, you can't really tell, but in some areas, but there's a drop off of, first initial drop off of 20 feet, but it drops down several hundred feet down to the bottom. It's not a sheer cliff, but if you ever went off down through there and were able to get far enough out with a vehicle, you'd probably never be found. So, almost where I want to be. Your arm getting tired?
No, I was trying to hold the phone still.
I can clean up some of that in editing, probably.
Yeah.
This is, now we got some guardrails. Over here it drops about 50 or 60 feet. Pretty straight down in some areas. Never used to be guardrails here. This road wasn't this wide. It was barely to the two white lines. We're just about where we're going to pull off. Kind of give you a wide view of, obviously not the most remote area in the country, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's not far from it. And this is where I grew up. This is home. I literally grew up not too far off the shore of this lake. I'll pull up a little more, get this little bush out of the way. All right, I will get out and show a little bit more. I'm going to take the camera from her. Get my finger out of the way. And this is what I'm talking about when I say you are in the middle of nowhere. If it was a bright day, you'd be able to see that even beyond what you can see now, there is nothing. For millions of acres. There's our little Bronco. It is just this. And kind of down, I'm trying to get my finger right, down in there, a few miles out is where I lived, in the middle of all that. I talked about a story of hearing somebody holler from the backside of a lake, Moose Lick McGunnock Lake. This is the low end of it. You can't quite make out the upper ends of it. It goes that way, and then it goes a long ways that way. So, And as far as the camera's not doing it justice, but this, when I talk about it being thick and dense, this is more open than a lot of it normally is. We also happen to be right where the Appalachian Trail comes through. It's actually, if you can see that yellow sign, it's just beyond that. So, if you're wondering how to spell that Moosuc-McGuntic Lake, there you go. This is where it all started for me, for a lot of it. So, all right, we're going to hit some of the spots that the stories took place and give you an idea of what that looks like. But this gives you an idea when I say there's a lot of wilderness out there that you don't know what's going on in. This is what I mean. Talk to you soon. This is a ways up the road, and you can't make it out today, but way down there is the town of Rangeley. And if I pan over, when I said Moosuc-McGuntic Lake kept going, that's the other end of it. And we've driven a ways. That's kind of more towards the upper end of it a bit. I think, wait a minute, let me get my bearings right here. It should be. Although, yeah, that is, I believe, the upper end of it. I'm a little making sure I'm not seeing the other end of Rangeley here. I know it sounds weird, but these lakes weave in amongst the mountains some, so. But you are looking straight due north there, but over that way, if it wasn't so foggy, you would see, you'd be able to see some of the mountains up in Canada. So, all right, be back soon.
All right,
So this is the town of Aquasic, which is the town I grew up outside of. Stop panning. It's all part of the town of Rangeley, even though they're about 8 miles apart. And you're gonna see all of it sitting right from this one spot. There's the store, the white building you saw earlier is the fire station, one of them I worked out of. And pan around and get the marina and snowmobile dealership and the gas station that I worked at 13 years old pumping gas. It's all new pumps and they've rebuilt the building, but same people. And yeah, that's about it. This is, you know, small town Maine right here. There ain't much. All right, see you in a bit. So these, when I talk about the logging roads, are what I'm talking about. They had just finished grading this one by the looks of it. Matter of fact, just behind us was some of the equipment I think they were using to do it with. But these are all privately owned roads, but the roads in the woods are open to the public to use, except for where they're actively logging for safety reasons. They don't want people in there. And we will be on these for a few miles before we get to the campsite and the river. So, just a little idea of it. It's bumpy, and actually this is in pretty damn good shape for what they normally are. So, I mean, we're doing 19 miles an hour right now. There are times when you can go a little faster, but a lot of times you're 10 or 12 miles an hour at most, because it's just rough and windy, and it gets very dusty in the summer sometimes, to the point where you can't see anything behind you. So you try not to follow people too close, because then you can't see anything. But this is just a little taste. So from where we filmed in Aquasic out to here is about 5 miles. We just turned off the main road. And I'll see you at the site. Alright, so as I had said before, this is a follow-up to the strange events in the Maine woods. I know you're crooked. There we go. Let's get you guys a little straighter. I haven't been drinking alcohol, so. Up here is where the event at the campsite took place, which I can only kind of describe as either a, well, I don't know. I'm going to say it was a potential Sasquatch, and you'll see why a little bit more here. So we are now several miles from any paved road or anything like that. In fact, the road we just come across technically was supposed to be closed, but because of the grading they're doing just to get it in shape. This is the bridge, and I will come up to the bridge and show you guys what I mean by stuff. But here is the campsite. There doesn't appear to be anybody staying on it. Nope, the site is empty, but I can't stay too long because somebody could show up that has rented this site. All right, so let's get out and explain a little bit about the events of that night. There's the outhouse. Here's the fire pit we were sitting around. We were sitting probably here-ish. Right over there was a tent trailer. If you've seen the video when I talk about the two rabbits that jumped in the air and took off running, they were here. And they would literally come right up under our chairs and sniff around us looking for food. And they took off running back into that way. The river that we just went over is there. So when I said you can't really see it, this is what I mean. You just can't see the river right now. So my father-in-law and I were sitting right over there when the rabbits took off and everything got quiet in the woods. We could hear squirrels. Red squirrels make a pretty distinct sound when they want to, and some birds and stuff. And it was dusk. It was just kind of that purplish haze when we heard big splashes in the river. Thinking it was probably a moose walking through the river, I got up. He stayed sitting there. And I walked up towards here. I can hear a car coming, so I'm going to let them go because that bridge is very narrow. I walked up to here. Hold on, I'm going to stop this for just a second. All right, I'm back. So I walked up to here. I'm sure there's nothing coming. And I walked up right onto this little bridge. These have big steel I-beams on them. They carry 100,000-pound logging trucks over them 30 times a day. And I stood here. Now, if you can see that branch right there, between there and up to that tree that comes out, I started seeing big splashes. Like I said, it's dusk. It's a lot darker then than it is right now. Over into this stuff here. This stuff wasn't quite that tall then, but probably only 4 or 5 feet taller. I started seeing rocks come out. I was hoping to maybe find a rock about the right size, but I'm not seeing any. But figure something about the size of a cantaloupe. And they're being thrown from in that all the way out into up there. So probably, now that I'm looking at it, 30 feet. Closer to the tree line, I saw a couple of big rocks come out and splash into the water. Those trees were not swaying or moving. You take a rock that size and it's probably going to weigh in around, I don't know, let's say 20 pounds for granite. Maybe a little heavier than that. And that's what a lot of these rocks up here are, is granite and other, I'm not a geologist, but big, heavy, dense rock. And they were coming up. Oh, they probably reached a peak off the water 20 feet high. I don't know about you. I'm a pretty rugged guy, and I could not throw a rock like that and make that distance and trajectory at all. Especially without making those trees sway all over the place, because I'd have to make one hell of a swing for it. And lean back and lunge forward. And those trees are very small. Those things, they're only a 2-inch in diameter little alders. They sway very easily just with gentle movement. They're kind of like these things here. I can get a little bit closer picture of some of them right here. As you can see, they're these little little things like this. And they came out into there. So when I had said I stood up here, anybody that was down in there, while I can't see them, especially because it wasn't as dense as it is right now. We're going back 2012, I think this happened. You'd be able to see me. I would still be silhouetted. I'd be wide open. You'd hear me. And when I jokingly said, I'm going to just shoot into the bushes and scare them off, I was not going to do that. I want to reiterate that. But you could clearly see the gun on my hip and my hands resting on it. Somebody would have hollered. I never shot into it. I never did anything like that. So, whatever it was that was throwing all that, it did probably 8 or 10 rocks. And then I walked back to the campsite. Total. From all the splashes we heard to what I saw, to as I left, I heard 1 or 2 more, I believe. Now, we had coyotes, all up and through here every night. We'd already been here for 2 or 3 nights, I believe, and we stay here quite a bit. We literally had coyote tracks right here in the morning. You could see them. Every night. That night, not a sound. Not a coyote, not a squirrel, not the owls. Nothing made a sound that night. The next night, everything was back to normal. So, I don't know. You tell me. I'm always looking for an explanation to this, because I don't know what it was, and I can't answer it. So my tent, like I said, the tent trailer wasn't mine, but our tent trailer that we were using sat here. And if you're familiar with them, the top goes up and the beds slide out, and it's a trailer with just basically a tent and a hard roof. I was sleeping in around here, and I didn't sleep well that night. I'm going to tell you that much right now. Thinking that little bit of canvas between me and the outside world ain't much if whatever it is decides it don't want us here. So, yeah. I just thought maybe seeing the area might give you a little bit better understanding of what I'm talking about. Because when I've told that story in the past, I've had people tell me that, well, if they do exist, they're going to be way away from people. You're not far enough out. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a long ways out. Not as bad as some places. If you live up in Alaska, you got more remote than we've got here in Maine. But from that overlook picture I showed you a while ago, looking over the lakes and the mountains, if you walk in the wrong direction, you're going to walk hundreds of miles before you come across anything that you would really consider civilization. So, all right, more to come. So this is a little bit more like what most of these logging roads are like. Kind of fit 2 cars through if you have to, but it's pretty damn tight. They're all rock and gravel and bouncy. And just a lot of nothing. You notice how you really can't see into the woods, and it's not just the leaves. This happens to be a lot of hardwood right through this spot. I'll try to show you better when we hit all the pines. You can't see anything. So, oh, big rock sticking up. Got to be careful you don't take out the underpinning of your car out here. This Bronco does well, but it doesn't sit up that high. So, remote, narrow. There's my GPS to give you an idea. I know it says it has a road name on it. I've never heard it called that, so, but there is nothing around forever. All right, talk to you in a bit. To kind of end a lot of this, now that we're heading back out, this is the road I grew up on. And if you'll notice, there isn't a lot of places. There's a driveway there, and there's one house out there. And yeah, this is what I grew up with, is living out here. So there's a little bog, little pond. There is electricity out here. It just comes in from a different road. It doesn't come down this way too far, but that's about it. Talk to you later.
That would.
Just a quick pick here. Let me put the window down. In the part of the video where we're at the overlook looking out across the lake and looking down, we are now on the road that you really can't make out from that too much. Looking back up, that overlook is, if I can get my finger right, is right up in here. If I zoom in, you can kind of make out a flat area up there. That was the overlook. I got traffic coming. Talk later. Well, you've had a chance to see the video. You've had a chance to see the area that I'm talking about. I'm sorry it was as foggy and rainy as it was. And some of the picture quality isn't the greatest. I get that. Even after running it through an editing software to clean it up, it's about as best as I can get it. It looked a lot better initially watching it through my phone, watching it back, than it does on here. I won't know for sure until it's fully edited. Obviously, this has not been 100% edited and uploaded, and I watch it on my TV or my phone to see exactly how it is. It's not bad, as you saw. Can't help the weather. The area that I showed at the overlook, looking over Moosuc Lake, on a clear day, you see a lot farther. I tell you, if you're ever interested in seeing that area, try seeing it in the fall, mid-October. Something like that. It's amazing when the leaves have all changed. The red, the orange, the yellow, dotted with the dark green of the pines is really something. Usually a very royal blue sky. Although on a foggy day with just the right amount of light, the trees seem to glow more. It's really weird. You've seen the campsite I'm talking about. From the paved road to that campsite, it's about 5 miles. From the end of the beginning of that dirt road where the paved road stops, where you turn off the paved road, back to the village of Aquasic, I'm going to say is about another 5 miles or so. Somewhere in that range. So you kind of get the understanding that even though you say, well, you're only, 10 miles from town, you're 10 miles from a town that consists of about a dozen buildings. If that. I mean, there's more than that for houses. And I say houses loosely because a lot of them are just summer residents. But there are people that live around there. My mother lives not too far from where I sat and filmed that. One of my sisters doesn't live too far from there. I won't say exactly where, but in that general area. As well as my brother-in-law and stuff like that, their family. So, it's very remote. It's very quiet up through there a lot of times. There are times of the year when it's a lot busier. It's a unique experience living that far away from things. And I don't know if you can really understand it until you've lived both more in the city and out like that. For those of you who have, you know what I mean. I miss a lot of living up there. There's things I don't miss about living in a very small, remote town. There's advantages to being down here. If I need something, I have multiple locations to go buy what I need. I have access to more work was down here. That was the biggest reason for moving back down to this area where I was originally born, but had moved away, was work. There's been advantages. Obviously, I wouldn't have met my wife, if I hadn't moved back down here. So I'm very grateful for that. But back to the stories about the things that happened there. One reason that you don't see me go into some of the other places, and I'm going to add some of this into the video too, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about it now. Some of the areas are gated. They will, from time to time, close gates and keep people out of certain areas because they're getting ready to do some logging in there. The roads sometimes get really bad for safety reasons. You saw the bridge. Well, there's multiple bridges similar to that all over the place. And sometimes they get unsafe. They're not ready to be logging in there for a while, so they're not going to spend a lot of money rebuilding it. So they don't want someone driving in there, falling through it, or having damage done, and people getting hurt. So they close the gate. They're fine to walk across usually, but vehicles they just don't want in there. I'm not walking those great long distances back in there. I was with my wife. She has a form of muscular dystrophy. There's no way she could walk these distances with me back into the woods. I don't know how well I do walking back in there right now. As I'm getting older and my knees are getting worse, some of these places were quite a hike. Um, and some of them it didn't really need to be shown. It would have looked just like the roads that I was driving on, the woods roads, the dirt roads. It's difficult up there if you don't really know the area. It's very easy to get lost because one road looks just like another a lot of times. And until you've driven them often enough that certain landmarks start to pop up to you. You're like, wait a minute, this is looking really familiar. Right around the corner, there should be a beaver bog, a little bit of a river, and a really big rock that sits right next to the road. Sure enough, you come around the corner. Yeah, okay, I know right where I am now. Um, I've gotten lost on those roads because they'll go ahead and they'll close some roads and cut new ones, and you're driving through going, well, none of this looks familiar. Especially at night, if it gets dark, everything looks different. So, and some of them took place at the state park. I couldn't just go in and walk around and film. I had to pay to go in, and I'm not real comfortable just walking around with a bunch of people with me holding my phone or camera up talking into it. Still new to this. Maybe someday. But for the most part, you got to see it. And I didn't have a way to get out onto the lake to the back side of it. I didn't have a boat with me or anything like that. So, but I think you can understand what I'm discussing and what I'm talking about up there. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more travels around that area or more things in Maine, let me know. I'm willing to show stuff. This is not a travel channel. But you know what? Guys like to go out and explore things too. So there's a lot to see and a lot to do. There's some pretty cool stuff around this state to go check out. So if you want to see more of that, let me know. Until next time, try to behave, get out there and explore, learn something. Talk to you next time. Bye.